Good morning, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor, and we're back with another episode of Tea with Sue. So earlier this week, I had this weird dream. It was so vivid. I was driving down this black asphalt and it was night. And I'm driving faster and faster, and the vehicle, whatever kind I was driving, felt a little bit out of control, and I'm struggling to kind of steer it and stay on track, but I kept going faster and faster and faster. And just about at the moment of panic, my phone rang and I woke up. And I'm going, whew. I wonder what would have happened if the dream had carried on. Well, isn't life like that sometimes? We're going faster and faster and faster without really knowing what's happening. And sometimes there's an interrupter, sometimes something bang and pulls us out of it. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not a good thing. I can remember having had lovely, vivid dreams that I didn't want to get out of, and the phone rang. So life's like that, right? Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of interrupters and braking. So we all know that when we're driving, then there are times when putting the brake on is essential to your life and your well-being and the well-being of those around you. So I got thinking back to a time in my life when it was important to put the brakes on. Now, I wasn't conscious of this at that time. What I was conscious of, so here was the scenario. It was after cancer treatment and my body was in pain. I wasn't healed yet. I was suffering. It was hard to do certain things. And because of the constant pain, I got depressed, and out of that my thinking started to just roll along the lines of, well, what if I don't heal? What if the way I'm feeling today is the way I'm going to feel until the day I die? So that was one feeling. And then the next thought was, and what if it gets worse? What if not only do I not get better, but it gets worse than where I am? And what will my life be like if I can't manage that? So these thoughts were just spiraling and spiraling and spiraling and spiraling to the point where it was out of control. My thoughts were moving in a direction that I did not want to go. I don't remember exactly what the interrupter was to stop that process, but I think part of it was my own innate sense of self that said, whoa, stop this right now. Quit thinking this way. You deserve better than that. You're more than that. This is not you. And it kind of jolted me out of that fear that was turning into terror, which was turning into bleak despair and hopelessness and so on. So I needed it. I needed that interrupter to really pull my attention back to what I did want to focus on, not focusing what I didn't want, but focusing on what I did want. So think about how many times in your life this happens to us. Maybe we've had, it doesn't matter what kind of adversity it is that hits us like a 2x4. And then because things seem to pile up on another and another and on another, maybe there's a sequence of events that seems to be getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And then we adopt that focus of negativity, that focus of, oh, well, what's the use? You know, it's only going to get worse from here. We forget that the world is a friendly place, that our essential being is one of love, and we come from love that wants the best for us. So our ultimate source wants what's good for us in life, wants what's the best for us in life. So this opposite of that, this distancing ourselves from that, doesn't serve us. And then the work begins to get back to, or get to, whatever it is that helps us stay strong, helps us recognize that whatever we're going through in this moment, this too shall pass. So I wanted to challenge you today to think about different interrupters, things that can stop whatever's going on right now, particularly, and this I recommend you use particularly when what's going on is not to your liking, because it doesn't feel good, right? I mean, I felt awful when I was going through this, and every time I revisit that type of scenario where I'm feeling in despair in some way, it doesn't feel good, and my body doesn't like it either. So it's to say, okay, let's regain our equilibrium here. How can we do that? What is it that will help us stop this process and restart or start the more positive one? Well, of course, laughter can do amazing things to interrupt us when we get going off on this crazy track that it's just sheer madness. And it can stop us. So this morning I was having a good laugh at myself as I was getting ready for this session. I have two different tubes sitting on my counter in the bathroom, and one of them is toothpaste and the other one is moisturizer, and they're both white tubes. So without thinking, so I brush my teeth and put my toothbrush back, and then I'm about to put moisturizer on, and I unscrew the cap and I'm just about to squirt it out, and I'm going, oops, this is the toothpaste. So I was just a second away from smearing toothpaste on my face, and I don't think it'll work as a good moisturizer. So I get a lot of foam out of it, but not much else. So anyway, so I had a good laugh at my own expense, because why not? I mean, it just, so any residue of feeling not that great quickly would dissipate because I had a good laugh. So the endorphins and the feel-good hormones that flood our bodies from laughter really can interrupt that negative process and help us start looking at what's really going on. Because really it's the ego in fear that causes us to think even worse thoughts than the minute before, and then the next minute gets worse and worse and worse, and down we go. Well, who can change that? You, only me. I can only change that for myself. And so it's to first recognize that you're doing it, and then say, oh, wait a minute, how am I going to interrupt this? Switching immediately into gratitude is another way of interrupting that negative spiral. Okay, what am I grateful for right in this instant? So I'm grateful that I have this marvelous cup of tea in a very pretty cup and saucer. I'm grateful that the weather is warming up because spring is here, and a friend told me that she heard and saw a robin for the first time just the other day. So I'm going, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the people that are in my life that support me and send me cheery notes and funny jokes and all of this kind of thing. So it's interesting that I've said before, you can't think a negative thought and a positive thought at the same time. It's one or the other. So if you've been on that negative train, then stop the train by thinking more positive thoughts. You know, move your mind into a different arena and focus on that. And that will stop this process. And even if it only stops it for a few minutes, you get some relief, and then I think our sanity kind of returns. And then we go, well, really, how likely is that nasty negative picture that I'm imagining? And you're imagining it, right? You're not, it's not reality, you're imagining it. How likely is that to happen? And when you apply a little bit of critical thinking to it, you realize that most of it is never going to happen. I know when I track back to every awful thing I imagined in my life, most of it never occurred. And yet I suffered because I allowed myself to get caught up in the worry of it and the mire of it. And oh boy, and digging yourself out of the muck is a hard job if you don't find what works for you to quickly shift you out of it. Does it mean I'm never going to feel despondent again? Well, no, I'm human. I have a human form just as you do. And that's part of my human experience. But what I'm noticing is that as I work with it, as I work with those despondent feelings, or that arena of feeling really negative, or there's what I would consider to be, quotes, bad things going on, I notice it quicker now. And because I notice it quicker, it's a whole lot easier to find an interrupter that will just pull me right out of that. And I essentially put the brakes on that so that I can go in a different direction. So I want to go full speed ahead in a positive way. So I was reading a book the other day, and they were talking about, I can't remember exactly the word, but it was combining fear and excitement. So I don't know whether it was freightment or whatever it was, but isn't that how we often approach life? We're both scared and excited at the same time, because usually it's the unknown. So we're a little bit afraid of the potential outcome of the unknown. But if it's a more interesting idea or notion or possibility, then we're also excited about it. So that's what was happening to me when I took a stand-up comedy course many years ago. I decided to challenge myself because I was always intrigued by how people made people laugh. And I can recall just in vivid detail how terrorized I was just at the very thought of it. And yet the idea of achieving success in that regard was equally as intriguing. And eventually my desire to perform in that arena outstripped my fear of doing it. And of course I put some safeguards in place, right? So one of the safeguards was I didn't invite any of my family, because I thought, no, I don't want my family to witness a potential disaster here. So if it's a room full of strangers, they're never going to see me again. Who cares? And so if I bomb, well, it's not going to be the end of the world, because I'll walk out of there and say, okay, I did that, whether it was good or not. And so that was one of my safeguards. And I could have quit at any point, but I was just determined. I thought, I'm so scared of this. I think this is a real growth opportunity. So I just forged ahead, even though there was my little ego mind wanted to put the brakes on, say, don't do this. Are you kidding? This is crazy. This is nonsense. Don't do this. And yeah, but I want to. So I did it. And it was successful for me on a variety of levels. Not only did people laugh, which I was so relieved, I thought, oh, actually, they kind of get me. They thought what I had to say was funny. But the relief in taking on something that was so seemingly challenging, that was so big, such a big thing to do for me, that, and then to have achieved that, to have not only been able to actually stand up there and deliver my material, but then to have some success with it, I thought, oh, wow. So then it took that fear bug, which had seemed to be, like the monster chasing me, and it shrank it down to this much smaller size, so that anything after that I attempted to tackle, I wasn't nearly as afraid of it, because I'd overcome that. And that's the thing I think we need to remember when we feel as if we're spiraling into that negativity and feeling less than, is that we are way, way, way more than we believe ourselves to be. And every time we achieve a victory over our fear in any way, shape, or form, that adds to our, not only our strength, but our perception of our bigness. And of course, I tell you every week, you are magnificent. Well, you are. You're bigger than bigger than bigger than bigger than bigger. It's just you forgot. But this is one way to remember. This is one way to zero in on how can I feel confident, powerful, and all of that. Well, start stacking up those experiences where I was afraid to do that, but I did it anyway. I achieved that even though I wasn't sure I could. And over your lifetime, you start stacking up even the small, excuse me, the smallest things. And you begin to realize, wow, I am way more than that. And so this isn't going to get me either. This isn't going to put me under either. So it's those kinds of strategies. So I guess what did I talk about? Maybe three strategies, three possibilities, three tools as interrupters. One is laughter, one is gratitude, and the third one, I'm sure there's way more than three, but the third one I've talked about today is the remembrance of all the times when you achieved some success despite your fear, when you move forward despite your fear, you didn't let it get to you. Now you know you can do this. You are that magnificent. So the next time you feel yourself spiraling down into that muck, find your interrupter and find it as quickly as you can. Notice that you're doing it. Find your interrupter and get yourself back out of it as quickly as you want to. Now, I mean, you can stay in it for 2 or 3 days if you want to, or longer. I don't recommend it. I mean, it didn't feel good to me. I wanted out of it as quickly as I could. So you can do the same. If I can do it, hey, you got this, right? So that's it for this week. If you're enjoying Tea with Sue, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. Leave me a comment. I always respond to comments that people send me. And you can find more videos on my app, The Magnificence Mentor, which, as I've told you every week, is a free download from either Google Play or the iTunes Store, Apple. We've just done a big update on the app, and so I'll be able to offer you more coming down in the next few months. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy spring. Watch for the robins and whatever other lovely birds are in your area. Their sweet song just, I know it makes me come alive, and I hope it does you too. Until next time.